Hi everyone. So today it wasn't too cold here. I went out earlier. It's gone down to -10 now. But those are kind of like Canadian temperatures. You just have to dress up warm and you have to go to get out. Otherwise you'll just be sitting in, and millions of people do it. You know, they're going to work, they're coming home, they're out and about. So I try to get out and do at least a 35-minute walk. Otherwise it's too depressing for me. And the days are getting lighter now, which is nice. And I have a nice winter coat and gloves and a hat, so I just do that and I go, because otherwise I'll be sitting at home the whole day, and that's not good. As it is, my mental health suffered because like since COVID they had us working at home, and then after I lost my job they called us back to the office at Teleperformance, but then I lost my job because Fanatics took all the jobs to South Africa. So I apply every day online, and there's a lot more jobs coming available for executive assistants, for project managers. So I'm hoping to get an on-site position, and I work mainly in the digital space, so things to do with cybersecurity, to do with implementation of new IT systems, all the project work related to that in the banks. And then I also deal with customer service. And I guess a lot of it is just being able to track the projects, where the milestones are, what the accomplishments are, and then to give status update reports to the executive, tell them where we are in our deliverables, chair the meetings. I did all of that in the banks, at BMO, at RBC, at TD. And then the executive assistant work, what I handled was coordinating the meetings, booking the travel, making sure that the refreshments were in place if we were having meetings, sending out the meeting invitations. And also I worked with the C-suite, so it was across different time zones. For my project coordinator work, I had teams reporting into me. I had a team of 5 here in Canada at HSBC, and then I had a team in Vancouver and a team in the UK. So I've had a lot of responsibility, but the last 2 years I've just had nothing at all. I've had a couple of interviews for executive assistant roles, but other than that, nothing. So it's very hard because, you know, you need an income. Otherwise, how are you going to live? And all these temporary measures that our government is putting in, they're not going to work over the long term. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have that one-time relief. What about the next month and the next month and the next month? So that's why I'm doing these videos as well. And I'm using them to train others, to share my experiences so others can learn from me, but also to say that I'm looking for work. I'm looking for opportunities in banking, in retail. I've always worked in operations, in support roles, and in leading those roles. So that's what I'm hoping something will open up for me. I've also had the opportunity to train others, so people would shadow me one-on-one in the workplace and learn from me in my project coordinator roles, in executive assistant roles, in positions in customer service. So I've had the opportunity to train others. And that's how it is, because once you do something and you do it well, then you explore the next opportunity, the next place that opportunities are opening up. And for us, it's going to be AI. It's going to be all in the digital space. So I'm positioning it that way because I would like to be able to return to work sooner rather than later, and to be able to go back to work. I'm fortunate in that I live close to the subway, but it's very difficult in Canada without a car. It's very difficult to do anything. This television came on. So if you come here and you don't have a car, you'll end up using the public transit. And I've used the public transit since I came to Canada. and that's a long, long time. I came here in 2002, and I've been using the public transit since then. So I don't just get into a car and go. I have to time the buses and the trains, and depending on where my work is, sometimes it can take me 2 hours to get to work, 2 hours to get home. I'm trying to get something close to home because I use the TTC and I use the buses. And every time I think, okay, now I'm settled in my job, I'll be able to come up, they take everything away from me. And then I'm dependent on people to help me, whether it's my mother or my cousins or, people in the business community. And it's a very humiliating way to live. It's very humiliating because if you come from a 2-parent home, and even my mother's partner was saying this, he says, when people buy homes, their parents help them. They help them with that down payment, their parents and their relatives. Nobody has done it on their own. I said, I didn't know. I bought mine on my own. I put the down payment down, and I bought it on a very high ratio mortgage when I had my place. So he was quite surprised that I did that. But anyway, I don't have anybody to help me, and whenever I ask people, they say no. They want to help other people who are family to them or other people who they care about. So it's been very tough for me, but I don't give up on my dreams. I don't give up on my hopes. And I grew up in Zimbabwe. And in Zimbabwe, my dad had built a house. We had a council house initially where we used to live. And we used to rent that. But then the government bought that over and they wanted to build a garage there. So we had moved from there to the house that my dad built. And family friends had lent him the money in the Muslim community to build that house. So then we moved there, and it was isolated. It wasn't close to town. So I used to walk sometimes. It used to take me at least an hour to walk to town and an hour to walk home, because I used to go and check on the house at lunchtime. So I hope that I get a good paying job, because people with my skills are earning 120,000 a year. 120,000 to 150,000. That's what I should have been earning when TD let me go. That's what all the people who took me in for outplacement counseling and all that, they told me that's what you should be earning. And I'm still nowhere near there. I'll end up taking minimum wage. I'll end up taking jobs cleaning. I'll end up taking jobs in libraries. But they never pay me what I'm worth. And that money is important because that affects what you can do, what you can own, where you can buy. Even now, I'm waiting because I asked my mother to help me with some money, and I asked my aunt. So they're going to help me with that. I'm waiting for that check to come in so that I can pay my rent. And I've put on LinkedIn, I've put on Facebook, so that people can help me if they have the money. Because I've done a lot in Canada. I've done a lot for my family. I've done a lot in the community. I've done a lot in the church. And it's not like I'm never going to get a job. I am going to get a job, but sometimes it's a numbers game. Sometimes it's a matter of who you know, because people do refer others to jobs. So when people know that somebody is looking, sometimes they might say, you know what, I don't know you, I haven't worked with you, but I know somebody who's looking, who's a recruiter, or I know somebody who's looking who might be able to help you find a position. That's why I put it out on my social media, I put it out on LinkedIn, because you never know. And some people are generous. They do help others who are struggling financially, and they do give money to them. So that's why I do it, because even when our truckers were taken to law by our government over COVID, there were a lot of Americans who sent money to them, a lot. And so that's why I'm doing this, because I also want to come up in life. I want to own my own place and Also not always be behind on my payments. If someone sends me $500, you can rest assured, because my credit cards are all maxed out, I'll be paying interest on interest, plus I'll be paying for because they'll put the interest on, that will go it over the limit, so I'll pay a fee for that. Then I'll pay the interest on that, and so you think that that's going to be a lot, but it's not, because most of the time I don't like to take things from people, including money. So that will just go to that down payment for that one credit card. And then even when I worked at TD, because I was a good employee, they used to try to help. They used to give me $5 gift cards for Tim Hortons or Starbucks or something. So sometimes companies do that. If you're a top employee, if you work hard and you prove yourself, sometimes they do that. But for me, this is boring, staying at home, especially after you've worked in things that are exciting, things like money laundering, fraud. That's what I worked in customer service. So when people had their cards compromised and they had their identities compromised and all that, and their cards were used for fraud orders, they would call us, and then we would help to put a stop to it. And that's one area that I worked in. The other area I worked in for fraud management was closing the gaps for money laundering with the New York regulators in banking. I did that at BMO. At RBC, I worked on integration of new recruitment systems. So I had to track the project milestones, track how it was working for the business, measure the metrics on that, and then create storyboards. So the storyboard is something the executives would go in and look at to see how the project is doing. And then when I worked at CIBC, I worked on updating and upgrading their websites. So new laws came in and they had to adjust to that, so I helped with that. And all the principles are the same in project management. So you're looking at basically creating your charter, which gives you your broad picture of what do you want to achieve in that project. And then you create the project schedules, you measure the milestones, which are your key dates, and then you track those, and then you have meetings with the IT people and get updates on where they are, what they've accomplished, where are the bottlenecks, and you keep track of that using your different IT schedules and platforms. So I use Clarity at BMO, and then at CIBC we just used Excel. We didn't have a different platform, and at RBC we used Excel, a basic spreadsheet. And then at HSBC I also worked on their projects. That's where I had my teams reporting into me, and we were looking at basically your retail banking and putting the systems in place to help with fraud management as well as your communications, upgrading the websites. And once you work in one bank and you work on one project, then they can refer you and they can say that I know somebody that's looking that we can bring in. There's also a lot of transferable skills that I have that I used in my executive assistant roles, which is basically what I did in customer service. So setting up the meetings, booking the travel, making sure that we have the meeting materials ready for our meetings, because nowadays nobody does printing and binding. Everything's just sent out via email. And then people bring their laptops, they open up the laptop, and then you go from there. The days of printing and binding are over. If you're still printing and binding and photocopying, you're living in the dark ages. No one's doing that anymore. I also used to manage the site repositories at TD. So the SharePoint sites, I used to control all the access for that, the cybersecurity. When people were coming in, like the consultants, and I was a consultant because they used to send me out through the employment agencies. I worked as a consultant. I used to make sure that their laptops were set up. I used to make sure they had a place to sit. And that was one of the problems in banking when they implemented this hotel system, that you all come and you sit anywhere and you just take whatever desk is available, including the executive. It was like, this is not going to work because you can't have private meetings, you can't close the door. You like, where are you going to put your files if you need them? Oh, they didn't want to listen. So now that's a big problem, because people are coming in and they're saying, well, there's not enough desks, especially after COVID, because a lot of people were working from home. So all you can do is tell people. You can't force them to accept what you are saying. So that's what I did in all those, and that's what I'm trying to get into. I'm trying to get into a project coordinator roles in one of the banks or wherever, but I'm also applying for the customer service jobs, and Teleperformance haven't called me back. That's the last company I worked at. But I'm still keeping an eye out, and I'm still trying to see. They had a receptionist role, but they didn't call me for that. So I'm trying to see if there's any receptionist roles, executive assistant, project manager roles. Those are the ones that I'm applying for. And here you have to speak to your transferable skills, because people don't do one career their whole life. It's not like you come in as a project manager, an entry level, and then you stay in that. People will find that you start out as an executive assistant, then you go into project coordination, you might go into project management, and then like me, you go like maybe into customer service. It depends on the market and where the opportunities are coming up. And even now, I've seen companies like Data Annotation, they're looking for people to basically write their scripts, like for the chats, and to write the information that people research for online. So there's a lot of research jobs with companies like that. And they're creating, if you go onto Facebook and you look at the WITS page, there's a page there where they have the video introducing WITS and what they're doing, and they're saying it's like a current through the university. They've got their AI representative that's talking for them. So that AI bot would have had to be programmed with what it's saying and whatever is coming from it. That's the kind of jobs that Data Annotation has. And that's what I've been applying for, that kind of position too, where you putting in the information that is then going to be fed into your AI bots. Because now when you go on to chat, people are not responding to you, it's a bot. But that bot has been programmed and somebody had to write that program. So I'm applying for those kinds of jobs as well. Because the way I look at it is that things are always changing and we have to adapt. Even HR managers, you're not going to need your HR managers, because your HR managers and all the HR directors and all that, their jobs, you can go into ChatGPT and you can have a whole policy written. You can put in, okay, what is the best way to deal with this HR problem, and you'll get the solutions. So there's a lot of new areas coming up, and new things are coming up. And even in COVID, like when my doctor, Dr. Ng, he never saw patients after that, because he used to do his diagnosis from home and it was perfect. Whatever he diagnosed was like, I didn't even have to meet him. And then he would just email me the prescription of whatever I needed to get, and I would go and pick it up. So there's a lot of jobs like that which people are still doing from home, and it just depends. So I'm praying that something opens up for me soon, because the way I look at it, there's a lot of good things coming up. The good thing with project coordination, and when you've been working in the IT space, is that it's a growing area. So for me, there's going to be good opportunities coming up because I stayed in that IT space. After TD laid me off, I was brought in by recruiters to do consulting and to go into the IT space. So that's a growing area. They'll need people in banking, in hospitals, in education. So that's what I'm trying to do. And then I'm doing my John Maxwell as well. And that's another area. The reason I don't do the like the live events and that is because you need a license. So if I want to actually host a Maxwell event, I have to pay like $50,000 and then set it up and have the speakers and all that. And I don't have that kind of money. I aim to get there and to be able to do that, but I can offer to help to facilitate if other speakers are having their events. And I do join in those conferences and things online. But yeah, that's the exciting space for people, the IT space. Whether it's in South Africa or here or America, it's an exciting space to be in. The other one is farming. I mean, people need to eat, right? So that's why I said I can go back to Zimbabwe and work with the white farmers. Every farmer needs to have somebody to take care of their administration, to help with whatever paperwork needs to be done. So that's another area I was looking at, the farming space and the food space. I'm not interested in like the hospitality industry and going in and being a server and all that kind of thing. I don't have that interest. I used to when I was a teenager in Zimbabwe, because we had there was a beautiful hotel close to where we lived, the Golden Mile. It's called King Solomon's. I think it's called King Solomon now in Kwekwe. And I used to love that hotel. And whenever we went in there, we were treated like kings and queens. So I had an interest in that, and I worked there in retail. I worked they had a gift shop, and they used to sell beautiful leather things, leather handbags, leather jackets, all our animal skin handbags, the furs, the lion skins, the kudu, the buck, and I enjoyed that. It was right up my alley. So it was nice for me. But I tried to get into hotel school and I didn't get in. So then I went into becoming a secretary, and from there I went into IT, and I've stayed in IT. I did, even when I worked in the hospitals, it was all IT related. So that's what I hope to stay in that space, and the cybersecurity space and the AML space, whatever it is, something related to IT, because that's where I'm good and that's where the jobs are now. And today I sent out 32 applications for work, all similar to the work I've been doing, customer service jobs, related to HR, things related to HR, project management. There's a lot of work out there. I just hope the right doors open for me. And yeah, I like the IT space. Some people don't like it, but I like it. I didn't think I would like it when I went into it, but I do. I enjoy it, and it's a nice area to be in. There's a story, I'll post the video. There's a story about the children of Lear, and it's a story about how a king remarries, and the king's new wife is jealous of the children, and she turns them into swans, and they can't undo that. And sometimes life is like that, like the circumstances